The second thing I want us to understand, that if we are going to have God change our nation, if we are going to see the great move of God in our nation, God does great things when God's people are basis themselves. When the people of God humbles themselves in the sight of God, it's good for a nation to be proud of what he is. It's good for a people to be proud of what they have achieved. But I want to tell you that if we are going to have the blessing God expects of this nation, you and I must be a people who recognize, if my people who are called by my name shall humble themselves. It is only a people that are humble that are eligible to be exalted. When a man is exalted, the only way you can do for him next is to bring him down. And the Bible made it known to us that it is God that exalts people. And so if we are going to have the greatness that this nation requires of us, we must begin to think about the power of humility. You see, several years ago, I began to learn that humility is a very strong force to being what you are. When you see a child who believes he knows everything, who will not listen to the advice of his parents, who will not take to the instructions of his teachers, who will not consult his classmates to know how good they are and appreciate it, that child cannot go far in this world. If you see someone who believes that I have it all fixed up and will not humble himself to listen to other people, that man can never attain to anything great. And so I want to say today that if this nation is going to be great, you and I must have the humility to learn, the humility to accept the process of allowing others teach us, the humility of learning from our mistakes, the humility of being taught. Can I put it to you today that humility is not synonymous with humiliation? And the fact that you are humble does not put you as a timid person. But humility is a state of the mind that prefers others to himself and is willing to learn from the little child and is also willing to learn from the greatest genius. And if this nation is going to be great, we must learn to be humble again. We must learn to abase ourselves. Our leaders must recognize that leadership is not being the first. Leadership is being the servant of men. We must begin to learn again that when people instruct us, it doesn't mean that we are nothing, but we should be humble enough to grow from those instructions. Thirdly, I want to say today that if we are going to have the great dawn, if God is going to intervene in this nation, we must be ready to turn aside from iniquity. You see, this must not just be a corporate thing, but this must be an individual thing. If there's anything I've convinced myself, having studied history and haven't looked at the contemporary life, that righteousness exalts a person, but sin brings a reproach to people. If you look at a cohort of people around, maybe 2,000 or 3,000 people around, those who are going to live to old age, one thing that will be clear about them is righteousness. And those whose life will be terminated before they ever get to old age, the key thing will be unrighteousness. You see, unrighteousness is usually very palatable. It is usually very pleasurable. being out of God's law and living a lawless and independent life looks very good. But hypocrisy is always very short-lived. And the pleasures of sin is always for a moment. And so if we are going to get there, you must individually decide that your code of conduct, your core values, your secret value system, right from the way you think, to the way you speak, to the way you act, you must be a student of righteousness. Sometimes you are tempted to look at those who have lived unrighteous lives. They have the big houses, they have the big cars, they have the big ovations before men. But let me tell you, it is one thing you see, but there are things you never see. And what you never see is what the Bible says. It says the wicked is like a restless sea, for there shall be no peace to the wicked. Unrighteousness hurts a man. A righteous man strips a man of the honor he can always get. And so I can tell you very well that great nations, they are conscious of the fact that integrity must be the norm. They are conscious of the fact that a man must not cheat. They are conscious of the fact that a man must not tell lies. They are conscious of the fact that a man must live up to the principles that he has. The Greeks have three things in which they express humanity. First of all, they use the word ethos. And by the word ethos, they mean you never can be great till you follow the ethical standard laid down. Then they use the word pathos. That you can never be great until you are passionate about what you are doing. And then they use the word as similarly as logic. That you can never be great until you maximize on knowledge. But whether it is pathos, or whether it is ethos, or whether it is logic, the Greeks agree that great nations are founded on ethos. And that no matter how much a nation is passionate, no matter how much a nation understands knowledge, if a nation is not grounded on ethical framework, that nation will collapse. And so I tell the young men and young women of our generation that listen, if this country is going to rise up to the great heights, you and I must decide that in our secret self, we are not just going to be those who talk about righteousness. We are those who are going to exemplify righteousness. You have always been amazed by man David. Although this man did all kinds of evil before God, but God still counted this man as a man after his own heart. And I think the secret of it is that the prayers of David, it says, create in me a clean heart. And God put a right spirit inside me. I think David was more interested in the inner religion than in the outward religion. David was more interested in what he is inside than what he is outside. David was more interested in the times God saw him than in the things that men saw him do. In one of the Psalms he says, God, search me and try me and see if there is anything evil in me and bring me to thy way everlasting. I studied the life history of people like Abraham Lincoln, one of the greatest Americans. And you find out that the solid point of Abraham Lincoln was his integrity. Was that this man valued inner integrity. And as David will put it this way, he said, God, deliver me from secret sins and let them not overcome me. And so I want to say to you today, someone may preach a different religion from what you see. Some may say it doesn't matter, money answers everything, but I tell you it doesn't. Someone may tell you, well, it doesn't matter, do anything you like, I can get all. I want to tell you it matters. And what really matters is today, as you listen to me and watching me in any government institution you are, go into that place with a high sense of integrity. Again, I want to say that if this nation will come to its greatness, we must know that it is God that has the power of annulment. Some of you who were in my own age will know the power of annulment. You can remember that there was an election in this country which some consider to be a fair election. Then somebody annulled the election. Now, annulment means for something to be said, then for that thing to suddenly not happen because somebody has said it will happen. You see, sometimes I've wondered, and I got that solution just recently. Why is it that certain people prophesy all kinds of things, and some of them are prophets of integrity, and then these prophecies do not happen? Why is it so? Let everybody prophesy what they like. Let them see whatsoever they are going to see. Let them say the right things about what's going to happen. But that when it comes to God, God has the power to annul what it looks like a correct prediction. God has the power to disorganize a correct revelation. God has the power to scatter anything that you think someone has seen that is right. And then God has the power to turn a very wise prophet who has given great prophecies and suddenly turn his prophecies and makes it look like a fool. Like somebody may just say, well, I am sure Jonathan will not complete his term. I am sure the assembly will all scatter. I am sure Nigeria will be destroyed. And he may be saying what is right. He may be prophesying what is right. But what Isaiah was saying, that God has the power of annulment. Someone may prophesy anything about your life. I said, my dear, you're not going to do well. You're not going to do well. Good. He has seen the prophecy. He has predicted the doom. Somebody told me that, look, before we got married, we saw a lot of things. The prophet gave a lot of prophecies about our life. The prophet gave a lot of things, and some of these things are coming through. Yes. I said, I do not doubt the power of your prophet to see things. And I agree that your prophets may have seen great things. But what you did not understand is that between prophecy and the actualization of that prophecy, there is always a divine intervention.
Come on, let's get excited in the house of God today. Say, oh, come on, let's put our hands together. Come on to the house. Lord, you are good, sir.
Lord, you are good, and your mercy endures forever.
Say, people from every nation.
Come and worship with us and experience a wonderful time with Jesus at the Sanctuary of Hope Church every Sunday by 9 a.m. and every Thursday by 5 p.m. God richly bless you.